to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This is the meeting of the Morrison County Board of Adjustment. The board is made up of citizens from the 5 commissioner districts of the county. The purpose of the board is to review applications of property owners for relief from the strictest interpretation of the county ordinances. Our guidelines are established in state statutes, chapter 394.27, subsection 7. The decision made by this board is the result of whether or not a practical difficulty has been determined. If the board determines there is a practical difficulty, we then review the guidelines in the form of 6 criteria questions that are answered at the end of the applicant's request. A final decision is then made. Each request is evaluated on its own unique practical difficulty. Variances are granted to the land, not to the landowner. This board may, in addition, impose conditions in the granting of variances to ensure compliance. After your public hearing is complete, you may leave if you wish. We have one item on the agenda tonight. That's David and Leslie Varsity, 9621 Hilton Road, Little Falls, application for a variance to add on to a non-conforming home, Bellevue Township. The applicants would come forward and pull up a mic real close and state your names for the record.
I'm David Varsity.
I'm Leslie Varsity.
All right. Varsity. Sorry I said that wrong.
Yes.
Amy, you ready with the staff report?
I am, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Again, this is a variance to expand a nonconforming structure located in Section 6 of Bellevue Township. The ordinance references for this request is 301.6 and 706.3. And then for the Mississippi Headwaters Board, it's Section F, F.1. And then here is a plat map of Bellevue Township, and the red dot is the location of the parcel. And then here's the variance request received from the applicant. And a site drawing also provided by the applicant, along with some site photographs. Here's an aerial photograph of the parcels outlined in blue and yellow, and then also some oblique imagery of the property. Here are some photographs taken at the site viewing on the 21st of October. Again, the property is in Section 6 of Bellevue Township. It is on the Mississippi River and within the Oak Lawn subdivision, which was established in 1962. It is a non-conforming single lot, which means that it's less than 5 acres and 330 feet wide. The property is 212 feet wide and 39,450 square feet. The first Mississippi Headwaters Board standards went into effect in 1981, and the required setback from the river is 150 feet. And the shore impact zone is the first 100 feet from the river. The zoning history on this property includes, in 1983, there was a variance to build a year-round home 90 feet from the ordinary high water mark of the Mississippi River, with the stipulation that the mobile home that was present at the time be permanently removed. And then in 1992, there was a permit to enclose the existing 16 by 22 deck. The applicant is requesting to construct a roof over the existing entry on the road side of the home due to ongoing damage to the stone steps. The roof would be approximately 118 feet from the river. And then here is an example provided by the applicant of what that would look like. The impervious surface calculation for this property is 18.8%. 25% is allowed. And then the applicant did attend a dirt meeting, and those notes were in your packet. The applicable comprehensive land use plan goals is natural resources and open spaces, goal C2, shoreline development, goal D1. And then the comprehensive water plan goals and objectives is the surface water goal, objective B, land use and development goal, objectives B and D. 62 notices were sent, and no comment was received prior to the public hearing. And then here you're finding of fact and decision questions, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Amy. Do the applicants have anything to add? Corrections to the staff report?
I was there for 2 of the visits, individual visits, but I guess when the big group came, Leslie was there, but I think she got it.
Oh, yeah, as long as you're on that subject, on the 21st, who was at that visit? Okay, oh, okay, and then I was there last evening, and
Yeah,
then Dave was there on
Today.
today.
Yep.
Okay,
State the names first, three.
so for the record, we've got the record of viewings.
State our names.
Pardon me?
State our names for the record.
Oh, state your names. Okay, sorry about that. Clint, Marv, and Brent were there on Friday and the 21st, and I was there on the 25th, and Dave was there today, the 26th.
And Sharon was with us, with Marv, Brent, and Clint.
Oh, okay. All right, perfectly clear. Anyway, do you have anything to add? You,
No, we just kind of, put a couple of planters out there to kind of give you the idea. It's not real big, but where we are planning to put this is already pretty much all impervious surface, so we're not increasing that at all by putting the roof over it. The stairway's already concrete and the sidewalk leading up. So just wanted to make that comment.
okay, and your proposed roof area is 7 by 12 and a half, is that correct?
Yeah, come out 7 feet from the house, just enough to cover the steps, and then the stairs are about 8 feet wide, and then I figured to stick with the overhang of the rest of the home, there'd be another 2 feet on each side, so that would get us to 12 by 7.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, any questions by board members?
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Clint.
When we were out there, I asked Leslie, and she thought, but we'll get, so on this structure, the peak of the roof of it, that probably wouldn't be any higher than the peak of the roof of the house, right?
No,
Okay.
no, not with that size, by the
Yep.
time that pitch comes
Yep.
back, it'll probably be below it.
Yep, that's what we figured. Okay, I just wanted to clarify that.
Yep.
Yep. I'm good, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Other comments, questions? Pretty simple and straightforward request. Mhm. Any comments by anybody on viewings that day, your observations?
One thing, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
We did talk with Leslie. Am I saying your name right?
Yeah.
We noticed they have gutters on the front of the house there, and we just want like that, and she thought you would do that, is on this new little addition, if it would go through, that you'd have that guttered as well. Just to tie in, so we did have that discussion with Leslie on that, so, just so we're all kind of know what we talked about and what we kind of somewhat verbally agreed to, I guess.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Mara.
to piggyback off what Clint had said over there also, I believe we all noticed this, but I'm going to reiterate it. The ground was tapered towards the roadway, not towards the riverway. So, I mean, and very modest, pretty straightforward, but just wanted to note that we noticed that it was tapered that way, so nothing would be flowing towards the river.
Yep, and Mr. Barsotti, it's hard for me to get that in my head. And I had a discussion on that too, and yeah, it's pretty clear that it runs towards the road, and there's a good holding area alongside the road, in fact, and culverts and driveways. In fact, Dave mentioned that there is a kind of a water retention area on the property to the north.
Seems to stand there a
Along-
little longer than it does
yeah.
on ours. But,
So, which eventually obviously soaks in and disappears, but, yeah, it seems to be a very natural and good runoff plan roadside. Okay, other observations, comments? Ready for public
Mr.
input?
Chair, just one other observation, just note that their shoreline was all native. They didn't do no, other than this little, I don't know what that is, 30 feet maybe, going down to their dock. Everything to the north of that is just natural trees, brush. It hasn't been cleared out or anything. It's just the way it's been. So it was a nice shoreline for what I guess this board and probably the Mississippi Headwaters Board is looking for, along with the DNR and all that, that it was on developed shoreline, so that was nice to see. I just wanted to leave that comment.
Mr. Chair, also with that stating, with all them trees and shrubs and all their, obviously, most of the leaves have dropped, but while the leaves are on there from the riverside, with all that grown up, you can barely tell that house is there. So, I mean, this is exactly what Soil and Water likes to see, natural like that.
Okay, thank you, Marv. Okay, are we ready for public input? All right. At this time, the meeting is open to public input. Is there any public input at this time? Any public input? Any public input? As there's no public input, we'll close the meeting to public input and proceed with the criteria questions. That's a yes. That's a resounding a yes, as these guys get. Okay, question number 1. Is the request in harmony with the general purposes and intent of the Morrison County Land Use Ordinance and Comprehensive Plan? We started with Clint last time. We'll start with, or at our last session, we'll start out with Dave Brucher today, or tonight.
I can't see where this isn't in harmony with the general purposes and intent. I mean, if you can't, it's not adding any impervious surface. The way the water's controlled, and there shouldn't be any general intent to not keep people from repairing their front step. I just say that. I think we're doing our job, and we've covered everything here. So it is in harmony. Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Dave. Any additions to that? Yeah. Personally, I agree with what Dave said there. This is mainly repair and replacement, which is allowed. But in this case, since it's adding a roof, it becomes a variance item. So it's an enhanced repair and replacement, which is the intent of ordinance to allow for that. Again, as Dave stated, no additional impervious surface, does not change the water plant at all. Yeah, it does not affect the intent of Mississippi Headwaters Board at all because it's on the roadside of the river, and agree with the observation that Marv had earlier that the riverside is very much in keeping with the intent of Mississippi Headwaters Board. There's not been development between the house and the shoreline. These owners have only had the property for a year, but in past, and it seems like in the past year, they haven't done anything to change that. It's screened, so passersby see a very natural setting. This does not affect that at all, so should be not a problem for MHB to answer this question the same way we are. So, anyway, anything else on number 1? Okay, number 2. Is the applicant proposing to use the property in a reasonable manner not permitted by the land use ordinance? We'll go to Marv on that one.
I believe they're this is a very modest addition, 7.5 by 12. And here, basically, they're protecting the steps so they do not need to be done every 10, 15 years or whatever. So they're forward thinking, and here it's very reasonable, and they're not increasing the impervious surface. It sounds like they're thinking about everything, so it won't be a problem in the future. So very, very modest and very simple. You won't even know it's hardly there unless you look for it. So, yeah, it's quite reasonable.
Okay, anything else to add to that? Yeah, just like, probably, I've always said this, but it does not add additional living space. It's not even enclosed, it's just a roof line. So a very, and it meets, again, the intent of both Morrison County and the Mississippi Headwater Board, intent of their ordinance, intent of their policies and plans. So that makes it reasonable. Anything else on number 2? Number 3, will the issuance of variance maintain the essential character of the locality? Brent?
I think as you go up and down the Mississippi there along the road, there are other similar homes, both with entries coming from the roadside, and there are several that have covered entries as I drove both directions out there. So I think it does maintain the essential character of the river drive from the roadside, and it does not affect anything on the riverside along the shoreline, so I think it will maintain it.
Okay, thank you, Brent. Any additions to that? Question number 3? Okay, ready for number 4. Is the alleged practical difficulty due to circumstances unique to the property? Oh, why'd I get that one? Okay, practical difficulties are difficult. And it's, as you saw in the opening statements, that's the first thing we need to do. If there's no practical difficulty, there's no variance. In this case, the practical difficulty is the need for repair. And the detail in the ordinance that a roof line is an expansion of a property. And this is a non-conforming building. So expansion of a non-conforming building requires a variance. The need for the repair is the practical difficulty in this instance. No living space. There is no enclosure around the roof line. I'm saying the practical difficulty is intent of ordinance versus the request. And intent of ordinance is met by this. Could the repairs be done without the building, without the roof line? Yes. Does it need a roof line to prevent it from happening? 50-50 chance. I don't know if it's going to work or not, personally. You're taking the same bet, too. I'm thinking it probably needs more like foundation work and keeping water away from it, which the roof line will do. So could you get the same thing accomplished without this variance? Not as well. So it's a repair. That's the practical difficulty in my estimation. Hope you guys can do better than that.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
One thing I was thinking about, probably a lot of the houses and entries in the front, you have an entry, you also have a deck, right? This house is non-conforming, it's too close to the river. We would not allow them to have a deck, even on that side of the house, without a variance, okay? I think doing this little roof line, fixing up the stairway up there, I think is a lot better than putting a deck out there to make it an entry to come in. And like Mr. just said, it's no extra living, and I think living space. And then I said also, I think with this house was there before they purchased it. It was built, and that's how the rock structure. I think the structure that's built out of in the front, it's just going to happen again without a roof. So I think the weather could be part of the practical difficulty. Just the way the weather comes in and the rain in that rock and gets in the cracks. And I think this little addition, with it not having no extra livable space, I just think it's going to help keep the weather out and keep that away. So I don't know if that helps or not, but that's just what I was thinking of when I was trying to go through this whole process. That's kind of what was on my mind. So you guys can piece it together.
Thank you, Clint. Anything else on number 4, the practical difficulty? Okay. You understood all of that garble?
Yep, I got it.
Okay, thank you. Number 5, is the need for the variance created by actions other than the landowner or prior landowners? Clint, I think you could,
Yeah, I think part of that was just what I kind of talked about with the weather coming in, and without that covering there, just the structure on all that rock and brick, and it ain't just the steps. Yes, you could tear out them steps and you could put in a wood step or whatever, but it's not gonna fit with what's already there, and you're not gonna tear down the whole structure to redo that whole house. So I think it's what was originally built there, and along with the weather, I think that has as much creation of needing this variance of other things, you know. Yeah, part of it is the landowner and part of it's the previous landowner and how they built it, but I think the weather and there's definitely the need for this variance is also created by actions other than the landowner and the previous landowner.
okay, thank you, Clint. Anybody want to add to that? Just another observation, thought that came to me, might have been better off in number 1, but impervious surface. Most cases when we're on lakeshore property, 25% we're right on the edge of that. And most of that 25% or 50% or more of it is within the setback to the lake, or even within the shore impact zone. In this case, all of the impervious surface, most of the impervious surface is outside of the 50-foot shore impact zone set by Morrison County and outside of the 100-foot shore impact zone set by MHB. So, yeah, this is consistent, and this request is consistent with that, continuing that. Number 6, does the alleged practical difficulty involve more than just economic considerations? Dave, your turn.
Mine?
Yes.
Okay. Why, of course. I mean, they've got the steps there. There aren't any other economic ways to do this. That if it was more economical to do anything differently, they would do it. There is no other, there just obviously no other more economic method to what they're doing than what they're doing. So that has to be a yes.
Okay. All right, thank you, Dave. Anybody else like to add to that?
Mr. Chair, I'd just add to that, you know, this involves the roof pitch of the existing structure. It's a preservation of the property and the entry to the property. There's water flow that comes in that direction. It's guttered now and will continue to be guttered, but to prevent further damage to the property, it's needed to move forward. And if it was just economics, maybe there'd be a cheaper way of doing this, but this is an expensive fix to a water issue. So it involves more than just economic considerations.
Oh, thank you. Anything else?
Yes, I would like to also add that it's creating a safe entrance for years to come, with not snow, ice, water being an issue on it. So that's another portion of this.
Yep,
So they're
yep.
forward thinking on this.
Thank you, Marv. Others? All right, we ready for the questions? Okay, we'll go through them then. Number 1 is the request in harmony with the general purpose and intent of the Morrison County Land Use Ordinance and Comprehensive Plan. Dave?
Yes.
Marv?
Yes.
Brent?
Yes.
Myself is yes. Clint?
Yes.
And number 2, is the applicant proposing to use the property in a reasonable manner not permitted by the Land Use Ordinance? Marv?
Yes.
Brent?
Yes.
Myself is yes. Clint?
Yes.
And Dave?
Yes.
Number 3, will the issuance of the variance maintain the essential character of the locality? Brent?
Yes.
Myself is yes. Clint?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
And Marv?
Yes.
Number 4, is alleged practical difficulty due to circumstances unique to the property? Myself, the answer is yes. Clint?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Marv?
Yes.
and Brent.
Yes.
Number 5 is the need for the variance created by actions other than the landowner or prior landowners. Clint?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Marv?
Yes.
Brent?
Yes.
And myself is yes. Number 6, does the alleged practical difficulty involve more than just economic considerations? Dave?
Yes.
Marv?
Yes.
Brent?
Yes.
Myself is yes, and Clint.
Yes.
All the criteria questions have been answered to the affirmative. Is there a motion to grant this variant request?
I move that we grant this variance.
I would second that.
A motion was made and seconded to grant this variance request. Is there any discussion? If there's no discussion, we'll proceed to vote. I'll do a roll call vote. If you're in favor, say aye. If you're opposed, say nay. Marv?
Aye.
Brent?
Aye.
Myself is aye. Clint?
Aye.
And Dave?
Aye.
Motion carries. Variance request is granted. Amy knows all else you need to know.
So the next step would be to pull your land use permit to actually build the roofed addition. That will trigger a septic system inspection, so if you don't have a current one on file, you'll need to have that done before you can pull the permit.
Yes, Sharon.
Oh, you're right. Thank you for reminding me. I keep forgetting. This is a Mississippi Headwaters Board one, so I've got to bring it to them for certification first.
Okay.
And their next meeting is, let me check. I believe it is the November 25th. No, I think it's the 18th. It's the third Friday of the month, so they'll be meeting on the 18th of November.
And we go to that, or?
You don't have to. So you will get a link via email. They meet via Zoom, so you can definitely tune in. Otherwise, I bring that on your behalf. They're provided with your application, the findings, everything, and then they go ahead and review it and either certify or deny. I can't imagine why they wouldn't certify this, but we have to have their stamp of approval before we can permit.
Okay.
So in the meantime, if we don't have a current septic inspection, you may want to get that done
I
because,
think you have that on file.
okay,
from
so
when
we can double
purchased
check
it.
that when we're back in the office,
Yeah,
but
it's probably 2 years ago.
yeah, if you have any questions, our office hours are 8 AM to 4:30 PM, Monday through Friday. And so if you have follow-up questions, we can
Okay.
go through that with you,
All
okay?
right, thank you,
Yes.
everybody. Thanks for your time.
Yeah, thank you, and good luck, yeah. And good night. Minutes of the previous meeting. We don't like them. Okay, new business.
Mr. Chair, I don't have any new business.
Oh. Old business.
I don't have any of that either.
Second chance at minutes of the previous meeting.
I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Nobody else likes them.
I second that motion.
Okay. All in favor of approving the minutes of the previous meeting, say aye.
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 Okay, motion carries. I guess it's time to.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
I'll second that motion. All in favor, say aye.
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 Meeting adjourned, 7:20.